I have had my son for 18 straight days. I have not shaved in nearly a week. I have gotten about 4 hours of sleep each night, and I am excited to actually go out and do something tonight. So we're gonna have to hurry this up. Hey everybody, welcome to week 3 of CIT 15. I am your instructor, Brian Baker, just like I was last week and the week before. Do you know that after this week, our class will be 1/3 of the way over? That's kind of frightening. All right, let's get straight into some questions from students. Number one, a lot of people have been emailing in with questions about individual questions in the MyIT labs. So if you're having a problem with a particular question, my first thing is see if there's another way to solve it. Usually there's about 10 different ways of solving any problem or doing anything in Microsoft Office, right? You can go up into the menus and do something. You can do a key command to do something. You can right click and choose the option there to do something. You can click in the ribbon to do something. There's just lots of different ways of doing the exact same thing. And so MyIT Lab will accept I shouldn't say all those ways. MyIT Lab will accept most of those ways. Every once in a while you're gonna run into something where it's like, oh, that's funny, if I choose it in the menu, it accepts it and moves me on. And if I right click and choose it, it doesn't. Hopefully they're getting rid of a lot of those, but it tries to accept a lot of different ways. So if you're having a problem, maybe try doing it a slightly different way. This often becomes a problem when you're doing something not on a standard desktop computer. So let's say you're on a laptop. You may not have a home key, right? Because you don't have a full keyboard. Or you do, but it's like you have to hit function, it's written in like dark blue somewhere, and it just becomes a hassle. So what you can do instead is, Control Home, all that does is it just moves your cursor to the very end of the document. So all you can do, you can just scroll down and then click to put your cursor in at the end of the document. MyIT Lab recognizes that and moves you on to the next part of the question. So if you're having problems because of your particular hardware setup, just find a different way to solve the problem, and that should help you out. Now, there's going to be some times where things just don't work, right? For some reason, it's just not working for you. And we've tried troubleshooting over the years with students. Problem is, you all have different operating systems, different browsers, you're doing different things. It just gets really, really hard to troubleshoot. So what I have done, and what I will continue to do, is every time I put down a grade for your lab, you get one question free. So 1 extra point up to the maximum points. One question given to you free, everybody gets one. And the idea being, on every single lab, I'm going to assume there's just one problem that is either poorly written, doesn't work, or whatever. And so I'm just going to give you credit for one problem. If you've got lots of problems, well, that's probably on you, right? But if you have one, it's easier than troubleshooting. Because, like I said, at some point, 15 emails later, you're going to tell me that you used ad blocker software, and I'm going to be like, oh gosh, okay, that was the problem the whole time. So anyway, try to solve it a different way. If you can't solve it a different way, you're going to get that extra free point. And remember, if you're a Mac user, send me an email, tell me that you're a Mac user, because you're going to have some additional problems, and I'm going to need to kind of work with you a bit more. By the way, since we're talking about grading, just be aware that since your week 1 assignments have now disappeared, and that was sort of the end of the Windows unit, because Windows only had one lab, expect some grades for the week 1 assignments to be posted hopefully this week. All right, now let's talk about what we're going to be doing this week. This week we have a little bit of a different schedule because we have a lab test. And so since we're adding sort of a big thing actually, I needed to take something away. So we'll only be covering 1 chapter this week in order to give you more time for that lab test. You'll still have about 5 graded assignments, which is about going to be normal for our class. Regardless, the chapter that we're covering this week is chapter 4. Chapter 4 is all about application software. So there's another chapter on system software. We'll talk about that. System software is software that's meant to keep the computer up and running and healthy and all that sort of stuff. Application software is stuff that it's meant to do something that you want or need to do. So video games are application software because you want to, kill pigs by launching birds with a slingshot. Microsoft Word is application software because you need to write that paper for your English class. Lots of things are application software. And so we're going to be looking at that. Obviously, when you get to mobile devices, for some reason, we've shortened the name to apps. Either way, apps, application software, it's all the same thing. It is an application for the general purpose machine. That machine that, is a computer that has no purpose until you give it software to help it to do something, right? All a computer does is just implement logic in the physical world, and then application software gives it something to do. So anyway, that's chapter 4, and as always, there will be a quiz on chapter 4. Now I'm taking some liberties with the chapter and the idea of application software and looking at something that's going to be a little different. A great application for computers and for technology that may be controversial a bit. So we're going to be looking at self-driving cars this week for your discussion. Here's what I want you to do. But don't watch the video. Don't do it yet. First, think about the idea of riding in a self-driving car. Going to school, going whatever, on the freeway, driving to LA in a self-driving car. No steering wheel. You are putting your life in the hands of a machine. How does that make you feel, right? Think about that first. Then watch the video. Once you're done watching the video, ask yourself the exact same question. The video is essentially a TED Talk given by somebody who works for Google in their self-driving car division. And he goes over how a self-driving car sees the world and makes decisions. It's a really great video to show you exactly how this technology works, some of the great benefits of it, and well, quite frankly, they don't talk about the negatives because to an engineer, there aren't a lot of negatives, right? But there are some negatives. So once you're done watching the video, ask yourself the question, would you feel comfortable? Would you feel comfortable in a self-driving car? How would that make you feel? But also, there are some ancillary things. Consider what a move to self-driving cars and trucks means for our society, our economy, etc. There's going to be some loss of jobs, right? I alluded to that last week accidentally. But what happens when big rigs can drive themselves, right? Remember that the technology doesn't have to be perfect to be implemented. It just has to be better than somebody who has had not enough sleep and has been on the road for 12 hours, right? That's the benchmark. Can a computer drive a truck better than that? And if it can, then you would choose the computer every time. And so there's going to be some loss of jobs. Lots of just delivery jobs in town. I mean, how does that work? If you're just trying to get from place to place, taxi drivers in LA. By the way, you can already, like Uber started this in Pittsburgh. When you asked for an Uber, there was a good chance that, for a while there when they were testing it, that you could get a self-driving car that would pick you up. Now, it had a person behind the wheel because by law it had to. And that's the case right now. For most of these self-driving car situations, the problem is not the technology. The problem is the law, right? It's when there's an accident, who do you sue? You can't sue the driver because there is no driver. Do you sue the owner of the car? Do you sue the person who manufactured the car, like Ford? Do you sue the person who wrote the software that Ford uses for their self-driving technology? I mean, we don't know what we're going to do legally. And so legally, we just say you have to have somebody behind the wheel and that person is responsible to take over if there's a problem. But that obviously isn't the end goal for self-driving vehicles. So anyway, loss of jobs. How do you handle the liability situation? There's a lot of weird talk about eventually you're going to have these computers decide, life and death situations. Do you steer, into traffic and potentially kill your driver or your rider, to save multiple lives? There's some weird situations. Hopefully that situation comes up less as there's more self-driving vehicles. But as you're having this discussion, just be kind to one another. I mean, that's true for all discussions, but this one will kind of get into some weird things because there's going to be some of you who have family members that are truck drivers. You're going to have a strong opinion, right? There are going to be some other people in the class who have had their families affected by drunk driving. And, that obviously is also a really important thing. I mean, the idea of being able to go out with your friends, get just plastered drunk, get behind the wheel of a car, and the worst thing that could happen is that you end up at your mom's house because you slurred what you were telling your computer you wanted to do. that sounds like a great future. You know, we're talking lives that could be saved. And so anyway, take a look at the video, see what's going on, and just be kind to one another in the conversation. That's your discussion for this week. Okay, so with the shortened chapter and discussion, here's the majority of what you're going to be doing this week, which is the MyIT lab stuff. So we're going to still have 2 labs. Don't dally with these labs. Dally? That's an old phrase that people don't use anymore. Get these done as soon as possible, because you can't really do your lab test until you've completed all 4 labs for Word. I mean, you can, but you shouldn't, because we're covering skills that you'll need for the project. So regardless, Word labs 3 and 4 are going to be your 2 labs for this week. Lab 3 is all about tables, so creating tables, managing tables within a Word document, as well as mail merge. Mail merge it used to be a really big thing. It still kind of is a big thing, but it was a big skill for sending stuff out. Like you do form letters and you want it to say like, "Dear Mr. Baker." And, you know, it would have the letter, and how do you get the Baker in there for all these different letters? And you do it by creating these generic fields and then using some data source like an Excel spreadsheet or preferably a database to pull the information in and put them into those little slots. Works out great. People used to do it, and then you do mailing labels or whatever to send stuff out. The problem is we don't do marketing as much with paper anymore. We still do, but people kind of read through some of that stuff. You'll still get it, and it's still important because there are just correspondence you need from businesses and stuff like that. So it's still used, but mail merge has also been updated to handle digital transactions. And I don't think the lab actually covers that, but sending emails using that same process of creating generic fields, putting stuff in, it's all the same process, regardless of whether you're creating something you're going to print out or you're creating an email that you're going to send out. It's the same thing. So tables, mail merge, that's lab 3. Lab 4 is all about sharing and collaboration. There's also a little bit about references and sort of creating bibliographies and cover pages and things like that. But you'll find the last lab is usually sort of a mix of ideas. But this one is a lot about sharing and collaboration, doing stuff like track changes, because a lot of times when you're creating a document in a professional situation, it's not just you. It's not like an English class where you're just writing a paper, right? You're writing something that a team is working on. So how do you collaborate as a team? How do you then, send it up the chain, see people's notes, edits, comments, then be able to edit and make changes? That's a lot of what we do around campus. I mean, every single document is created by a committee and then passed to another committee to be reviewed, and then people make edits and comments and changes, and how do you track those changes over time? So that's the biggest part of Lab 4. So Word Labs 3 and 4 before your Word test, which is also going to be this week. And so then let's talk about that Word test. So here's the thing. This is going to be our first lab exam. There are 3 lab exams during the semester, one on Word, one on Excel, one on Access. We don't do Windows, we don't do PowerPoint. But those three programs all have tests associated with them, lab tests associated with them. And so there is a video in the module showing you how to do the lab test, how to download the files and do all that sort of stuff. I'm going to explain it briefly, but that video is going to give you the real direction. So be sure to check out that video. I believe I also cover like how to do the first one, but anyway, whatever. Point being, check out the video. It has instructions. But in general, the idea is that you're going to be downloading files from MyIT Lab, not doing something in a simulation in MyIT Lab. You're just using MyIT Lab to download these files. These files are digitally signed with your account. Do not give those files to other students. Do not make edits and then change. Do not copy and paste from other people's files. It will mark you as a cheater. And then I will have to deal with that. So don't do it, okay? But you get these files, they're marked with your account, and then the idea is you're going to just open them in Microsoft Word, right? Your own version of Microsoft Word that's on your computer. If you don't have it, hold on, I'll tell you how to get it. But you'll open it in Microsoft Word. One of the files will be a set of instructions. That one will always be in Word. And it'll just say like, hey, open the document that came along with this. In this case, it'll also be a Microsoft Word document because you're being tested on Microsoft Word. And this will be the document that you're going to then edit. the first thing it's going to do is tell you to save as and choose a different name. The reason for that is because there's a lot of students who, if you just save it with the same name, then you end up uploading the wrong one, and then you get a 0 and you think, but why did I get a 0? And I look at it and it's because you did absolutely nothing. And it's just you uploaded the original file as opposed to the one you were actually working on. So put your name in it or something. I can't remember what the instructions tell you to do. It doesn't matter what you name it. That's worth 0 points. It's not going to check for the title. Just name it something so that you will remember this is the one to upload. Call it, this is the one to upload. That's a great name. That's very descriptive, right? It's going to tell you exactly what to do. So call it something else so you upload the right one. And then that's the document you're going to be making all your edits in. There may be some other files that come with your lab tests, some images and stuff, things you need to like import into the thing. There's that. But for the most part, your 2 main documents, your set of instructions, the document you're actually editing. And then you just go to the set of instructions, you go down the list, and for each thing, you just do it. Oh, you want me to add a cover page? Add a cover page. You want me to, justify something? You justify a line, whatever. And you just go through those steps in order and editing the document. When you're done, you then take that document you finished and you upload it back to my IT lab, and it will be graded automatically by a computer. So let's address some of the issues. Number 1, what if you have a different version of Microsoft Word? No problem, you can do that. By the way, you can get the right version for free through the campus. We'll talk about that in a second. But if you have a different version, no problem. You're going to have some things that are changed. And this is going to be especially true for Mac users. Even if you have the newest version of the Mac, version of Office, some of your templates and stuff, your styles are going to be off. Don't worry about it. You're just going to upload the one that looks closest, and that'll be fine. Just choose one that looks okay. I can't remember if it actually docks points from Mac users for uploading something with the wrong theme, but if it does, I can correct all that in the back end, which is the second thing. It's going to be graded by a computer. Don't freak out. I am then going to go in and say, here are some questions I thought were poorly phrased. I think what people were doing, I could see how they got that from the instructions. There's a couple of those over the course of the exams. And then there's some others where I just thought the computer's being way too pedantic when it's testing stuff. So regardless, I will be grading after the computer grades to adjust your grade before it goes into Canvas. And the Canvas grade is the one that counts. So there it is. There's your lab test. Now, if you do not have Microsoft Office and you're thinking, oh no, I have to buy Office, don't buy it. You get Microsoft Office for free as a student at Fresno City College through your email account, because that's a Microsoft account. There is a whole video in the module telling you how to download Microsoft Office for free. You will get it for free, the newest version, 2016, for free, for PC or for Mac. If you're a Mac user, again, some of your stuff's not going to quite look right. They've never been closer, the Mac and PC versions. It's just the styles and some of the color schemes and stuff are a little different on the Mac version, but you'll be fine. Point being, download the latest version for free. There's a video in the module showing you how to do it. And that's it. That is week 3. It is a big week for us. Obviously, you've got 1 chapter, 1 quiz, 1 discussion, but then you've got 2 labs and a lab test all in this week. 5 graded assignments, but that lab test is going to feel a little bigger. The lab test is designed to be done in about 2 hours inside of a class session, so expect for it to take about 2 hours to complete that lab exam. But regardless, that's what we're doing this week. If you have any questions, send me an email or email me through Canvas, and I will see you online.